today, bring you another awesome JayNAS Podcast here today. We're going to get you updated on all the latest PC gaming, console, retro and Nintendo news, and as always I'm joined by my good friend Jason616. He is our local retro expert and of course Nintendo expert, gives us the latest on all the local news of that. Buddy, thanks very much for joining me as always, man. How you all feeling, man?
No worries, I'm alive. That's the main thing, is I'm actually here. It's been a bit of a busy week, so
mate, it wouldn't be the same without you, buddy, so we're all glad you're here, mate.
Yeah, that's it. No, good to be here, man. Got some good things happening down the Nintendo way this week. Not all negative, so that's good. We had a few negatives from Nintendo last week with Mario Kart multiplayer and other stuff going on, but all looks good on the Nintendo side this week, as well as some... remember how we mentioned we had the new handheld console coming in? The Evercade.
Oh, yes.
I've got some more updated news on that as well. So
nice.
Things are progressing well from my side.
That's excellent, man. That's excellent. Well, as I was mentioning before, today's going to be a bit more of a Days of Our Lives, Young and the Restless episode, or should I say Days of Our JayNAS, or Young and the JayNAS, or whatever. JayNAS and the Restless or something today, because it's a bit more drama going on out there in the gaming world this week than there is more sort of exciting stuff, but we're going to cover it all, bits and pieces. So I'll give a brief overview of what we'll be talking about tonight, mate.
Yeah, no worries.
One of the big things I want to talk about is that the world the Who, not as in the band, the Who. So Who, as in, stands for World Health. I did it again. The World Health Organization has officially announced the declaration of mental health in regards to gaming disorders. So it's kind of a really grey area at the moment. Still waiting for more information coming through. But basically, the World Health Organization has classified gaming as an addictive disorder, which I'll talk about a little bit more. There is apparently going to be an unexpected announcement at this year's E3 about an Avengers video game. Not sure exactly what its type is going to be. We'll talk about a little bit later. Square Enix or Square Onyx, however you want to pronounce it. Some people pronounce it Square Enix, some people pronounce it Square Onyx. I don't know why. They plan to do a showcase with it, which is very cool. Talk about it in a little while. A departure of a game developer, one of the gaming directors at Gearbox, who is basically the studio executive. He's done a runner. He's pulled out on the development of Borderlands, which is a bit sad, but I'll talk about that in a little while. As I was mentioning before as well, a little bit of drama. As well, the ACCC are taking Sony to court in regards to basically breaching consumer rights acts and all that sort of stuff as well. And I can hear a little dog bark in the background, which is absolutely fantastic.
It's wonderful.
And of course, I've got my honourable mentions as well, mate. So, a bit of a juicy night, but mate, I can't wait to hear what you got, buddy. What do you got going on?
Cool. So, we brought up the Evercade before. Was it two weeks ago, I think? Where it's a brand new handheld console was going to put the Switch up to the challenge and be their counterpart, and they've released 3 new collection cartridges for that, and there are some damn good games in there. So I'm going to be talking about the Evercade. Also, the Mega Drive Mini is back. We have 10 new games announced for the Genesis Mini, or the Mega Drive Mini, or whatever you want to call it. So this will round up to 30 games of 40. Also, everyone at Nintendo got together to actually try and sum up the list of Nintendo's greatest console. So they've all got together and said, let's throw every console we've ever created, handheld or not, and make a bit of a list. So every employee of Nintendo went and wrote down them all in their order of preference, and they've compiled what is Nintendo's best console and why. So that's a interesting one, as well as I've got a few honourable. What is wrong with us today? It's not just you.
Look, you know what's funny is that you've actually got an excuse. I fucking don't.
I shouldn't have. We say it every week. Honourable. There you go. Honourable mentions. I have a couple. I don't normally do them, but I've got a couple from Nintendo's way about what's coming out and some games Nintendo's got a hold of and just a few bits of news and what happened today in the video gaming world as well. So that's what I have for you.
Excellent. That sounds really good, mate. I can't wait to get into it and hear the best of what's going on out there in the gaming world. Are you ready to kick it off, buddy?
Yeah, dude, ready to kick it off. And do you want to start by getting the dramatic stuff out the way first? You said you got some drama happening your side, so let's kick that off and get it out of the way.
Let's kick it off. Break out the tissues. It's going to be a real tearjerker out there. Turn those earlobes on. Your ears are about to bleed. Let's get you all updated on the latest PC gaming, console, retro, and Nintendo news. Let's do it.
News?
News. What did I say?
News.
Did I?
Yes.
No, I said news. Must be my gate.
Must be the dog barking.
Yeah,
it's thrown us all.
Yeah, I said news, and you heard a dog go news or something. I don't know. That sounded really bad.
This may be the worst intro to a podcast ever.
It's not like anyone listens to it. No, I'm just kidding. We're
professionals.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Professional moobs. Yes. Right, let's do it.
Go.
Okay, so as I mentioned before, The WHO, not as in the band, the World Health Organization has officially announced over the weekend that gaming disorder is recognised as now mental health in what they call the ICD-11. So international clinical diseases, I believe it's called. So basically, it falls under the category of, in detail, substance use, addictive behaviour, and gambling disorder, which is, of course, very, very debatable. They announced it over the weekend that it's now going to be official in the ICD-11. So it is quite concerning. That, I mean, I can see where they're coming from. It is quite concerning. Gaming is an addiction. I'll admit that I'm addicted to gaming. It's what I do. It's what I love doing, and in fact, it makes everything a lot easier. It helps me do everything from relaxing right up to feel like I'm being productive. It feels like I feel most alive when I'm gaming. I mean, ever since I've retired from fighting, gaming is really when I really started taking off. I've always been gaming ever since I was a kid, but on and off. But when I stopped fighting and I wasn't training 6 days a week, it was like, what do I do now? Started taking up gaming a lot more, and it kicked off then. That was in 2012. So I think I've mentioned that before. So mate, I'll be the first to admit, yeah, I'm addicted to gaming. I can't wait to get home and game. And if I haven't gamed for a while, I start getting withdrawals and all that sort of stuff. So I think the fact that they're just not really done enough research. There's not enough evidence, and I'm going to touch on that, what I just said, again in a little second as well, is that they just think that if you can sit there for 10 or 12 hours non-stop with very little to no breaks and all that sort of stuff, and you can do that every single day, 7 days a week, then you must be an addict. Well, not necessarily. You're just passionate and you love what you're doing. Then, of course, there's people that, okay, they might call in sick to work and play games instead, or sick from school and play games instead. So I can understand that. I really can. But to put it in the category of gambling, I mean, I know there's loot boxes and all that sort of stuff, but you're exchanging, finance for goods and services. Basically, when it comes to gambling, you get finance back in finance. You make a profit. So of course, that's going to be natural gambling. That's where the addiction comes with. And all that sort of stuff. It's not like you're buying goods and services. You're buying just literally a electronic product that's only available within the game. So I can understand the addictive side of wanting to constantly get good items with loot boxes to give you an advantage in game. But at the same time, most loot boxes aren't designed to give you in-game advantages because the whole pay-to-win thing is sort of under a microscope. But basically, you can't really say that it's on the same level as gambling disorder. It might release the same endorphins or whatever, that it makes you feel the same way when you have a good win and all that sort of stuff. But it's highly unrelatable, in my personal opinion. I mean, for starters, people don't fucking sell their house to go to the casino table. People don't not pay their rent or their mortgage to go to the casino table. People don't break into people's houses to steal money and personal belongings to sell at the hock shop to go to a casino table, and they sure as hell don't beat up people and stab people or murder people for the sake of getting money to go to a casino table. And even though we might stay up to 2 o'clock in the morning, but there are people that are like there in visual in front of a person, this person that's dealing him cards in front of him, and even this person will say, "Don't you think you've been here long enough?" And the person will usually have like a negative effect. So look, it's just too unrelatable in my opinion. And on that backlash, it's funny how you say that. It's funny how I say that. Basically, with the gaming disorder, as I'm bringing up the World Health. I keep saying it. World Health Organization.
You'll be glad to get this one out of the way.
Yeah, big time. I was bringing up pages on the official page. You can check it out yourself. But basically, there's been a bit of a backlash. So the top global gaming organisations are asking the World Health Organization, so WHO, to reverse its inclusion of gaming disorder, a disease, according to the press release sent by the Entertainment Software Association on Saturday. The World Health Organization has officially recognised gaming disorder over the weekend as part of the 11th edition into International Classifications of Diseases. That's what's called, the ICD-11. This was a decision the industry was awaiting since WHO detailed its intentions, a couple of years back. So basically, what's happening now is, in effort, which includes the Entertainment Software Association, including several organisations, have released a statement, including signing petitions. They want people to sign petitions to get the WHO to basically do more research. Really, really acknowledge the difference between the gaming disorder and the gambling. They want people, they said it needs more evidence before we concluded to such a classification. The organisations behind the effort include ESA, as well as the Entertainment Software Association of Canada, Interactive Games Entertainment Association, the Interactive Software Federation of Europe, the Korea Association. So a lot of these big guns, a lot of these big heavyweights in the gaming industry have now stepped in and gone, bullshit, you're not going to do this to us. This is total crap. What do you know about this total garbage? Tell you what, why don't you actually show us some evidence and show proof of how this is like gambling, how this will destroy lives and, marriages and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, sure, we've heard of people that have constantly gamed and have ignored loved ones and all that sort of stuff. We heard of the odd person, but it's not like, the mortgage is going to get destroyed. It's not like they're spending thousands of dollars and it just completely disappears. If you can't even spend $1,000 a day or even a week on gaming, because you'll buy every single game in an hour, and you're going to be so busy playing all these games because you're addicted to gaming, you're not going to spend more money. That's the whole point of gaming, is that you're at home saving money and not out, getting drunk, taking drugs, beating people up, for money to go gambling. Do you know what I mean? It's just not even on the same page. So I can see where they are coming from. Honestly, I can. But then, in my opinion, if they're saying that the gaming disorder is an addictive personality enough to be recognised in the world or international classification of diseases, then they need to look into people that go to the gym every day. There's an official term called gym junkie. These people go to the gym every day. I'm addicted to going to the gym. I'm addicted to working on my guns. I'm addicted to making my
people
dick
that have
bigger.
I used to know someone that ate 9 meals a day just to to get big, and
exactly.
he wouldn't eat anything other than the same one meal.
What's wrong with the guy that loves his footy, that trains 4 or 5 nights a week, plays a couple of games because he plays in the reserves and he plays in the Colts as well? He might play for 2 different teams or something like that. What about that guy? What about that guy who's addicted to playing sports? What about that guy? So
what about as well social media, man? Because some people just sit there on their phones for hours, and I'm like, how can you sit there on your phone for hours not doing anything? Some people, if they had the choice, would just be glued to that fucking thing.
Yeah, man. Selfie. They were talking about selfie addictions a couple of years back. That was some sort of disease. It hasn't been recognised or anything like that. But that's 100 times worse, in my opinion. Because that creates ego. that builds this sort of fake self-esteem that you think you have, which is blocked by you can't see your true self-image because you block it by fucking Instagram filters. That's 100 times worse. And the reason why you put it out there is so people can go, oh, you look so beautiful, and it gives you this fucking boost of bullshit fake ego that you don't need, because if you love yourself already, you don't need all this ego boost. You don't need this, this fake profile that you pretend that you are, that you're actually not on Facebook, which is about 80% of the population. For these people who think they are your friend, where most of them usually aren't. And I'm not saying anything about our Facebook pages, because I actually have a lot of ironically, I have a lot of genuine friends on my Facebook, and I don't do selfies or anything like that. But this is 100 times worse in my opinion, and that's a good point, man. Social media addiction, that is 100 times fucking worse, and in the long run, that can do so much more damage. I mean, there are more marriages breaking up over Facebook than there are gaming disorders, man. I hear it every second day. Thanks to Facebook, me and my girlfriend have broken up because of, someone said this and that person said that, and they found out about this. And
that's exactly right. I mean, social media. I mean, I have my own Facebook, and I have, oh great, I've got dogs barking on my side now. This is fucking wonderful.
What's going on?
We're attracting the dogs, mate. We're attracting the dogs.
That's right.
No, I have my own personal Facebook, and then I have my my gaming page has its own Facebook and Instagram, and we obviously have our own YouTube channels. So on my personal Facebook, I keep that very low. I think I only have 22 friends, literally 22 friends, because I keep my personal life and my gaming life completely separate. In saying that, I've met a lot of good friends from the gaming side who are very supportive, but I also do take a step back because I don't want to be relying on other people's opinion of me, on how good I am. Because at the end of the day, I want to be the one to make an opinion on myself. Don't get me wrong, we're putting ourselves out there to be completely judged all the time, and in time there is going to be people there to run us down to the ground. Yeah. But if those people's opinions, if you really some people become almost reliable on someone else's opinion to make themselves feel good. And that's nowhere to go. Social media in itself is almost ruined society, in a sense that I remember going back 10 years ago, if you wanted to speak to someone, they gave you the phone number and you'd call them up. Now it's add me on Facebook and send me a message. And I've lost multiple friendships myself because I've disconnected from them, because no one ever actually calls you to catch up and see how you're doing. They just look at your Facebook profile and know what you're doing. So I've just, didn't post my life story on Facebook, so people would actually have to call me to see what I've been up to, because I'm not going to overshare. But some people you lose friendships and stuff like that because they just look at your Facebook and know what you're doing and then don't bother to contact you. But I mean, between social media and Pictionary, I think those two are the things that break up the most relationships in the world, especially Pictionary. But
yeah, the worst thing they did was do those messenger in-game things where you can virtual friends and word find and stuff. And then
the amount of people. What was it? Candy Crush. The amount of fucking invitations I got for Candy Crush, I just wanted to go mad.
Yeah, man. Yeah, look, that's the other thing as well, is that, when it comes to the World Health Organizations talking about gaming disorders, are they also including mobile gamers? Are they only talking about mobile gamers? They also taking their statistics based on such how highly popular mobile gaming is to the average person, and what is their guideline of addiction? Is it because they're spending more than 2 hours a day, or is it because they're spending every waking minute? Are they actually not going to work, calling in sick, spending money that they're not supposed to be spending on, blah, 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 blah. So this is where the big entertainment industries have come out and said, we need more evidence, simple as that, before you put that shit in there. But yeah, man, honestly, mate, that is my first topic of the day, buddy. I cannot wait to hear what you've got to say for us, man.
Alright, cool. So I'm going to kick it off with the Evercade. And if you're new and haven't heard our podcast a couple of weeks ago, the Evercade is coming out. It's almost like it's like the Nintendo Switch. It's a handheld console, but it takes cartridges. They're releasing old cartridges to go into these suckers, And it's really going to take the Nintendo Switch for a ride, because these guys are literally getting licenses from game companies to do this. So it's not just, relying on legal grey areas of emulation and ROM files. These guys are actually going to the developers and saying, we want to use these games on a cartridge. And they're kind of like cramming 20 or so games onto one cartridge and calling it Collection 1, Collection 2, Collection 3. Well, it's expected to be released in, between October and December this year. And they're really pumping this thing up. They're really backing it, and I think this could be a very big competition for the Nintendo Switch. And if I was Nintendo, I'd be a bit worried. And if I was them, I wouldn't be letting a lot of my my Nintendo kind of classic games from the 8 bits and 16-bit games go. But in saying that, they're not going through Nintendo; they're going straight to the source. So 3 new cartridges coming out. They've gone to Interplay for a collection, Namco and Atari. So they're going straight to the source. So it's gonna be big. So the first collection, obviously with Namco, they're calling it the Namco Museum, is the name of that cartridge. Some of the best Namco classics like Pac-Man, Dig Dug, and Star Luster are on this cartridge. So some obvious classics. Pac-Man is probably like the gaming symbol of the world, really. So grabbing up him would be great. Interplay, I don't know if you know Interplay.
No.
They're the guys that do Clay Fighters and Earthworm Jim.
Oh, there you go.
So, and you betcha, Clay Fighters 2 and Earthworm Jim 2 are on their Interplay cartridge for the Evercade. And the final collection is just Atari. So, they've got another 20 classic games from the Atari's first successful home console going on that. So they've released those 4 cartridges so far, along with the original one they said. And they are going to do some good things. And I was saying last week that I think cartridges will come back. Is this the way to go? Because they're looking at selling a cartridge collection of 20 or so games for $60. Now, 20 games for $60 isn't too bad. Now, one person would say, oh, but hang on a second, like, why would I could just emulate them? And yeah, you can. But have we ever had a cartridge of just Namco, which could be NES, SNES, all kinds of ranges of consoles on the same one? You could have a Super Nintendo game with an NES game and an Atari game all on one cartridge, without going, this is all SNES, this is all NES, this is all Atari, this is all this. I mean, they're combining a lot of things, and I think people will pay the price for it, I think they will, but this Evercade, they're really backing themselves, and they've got some good shit coming out, and the fact that they are keeping a lot under wraps as well, and, it's not being hugely made to the public eye that this thing is coming out. So I think they're going to keep a lot under their wing and look out for this, because it's going to be a doozy, this one, and I'm probably going to get my hands on it because I love the old retro ones, and yeah, emulation is cool, but can you carry the emulation games around with you and play with your friends? That's the thing.
I definitely couldn't. I have to take my whole PC. I've got MAME, I've got WinUAE, I'll have to take my whole PC with me. I have to take my external hard drive, and all that sort of stuff. And it's not as simple. I mean, I've got WHD load as well as WinUAE, but that takes a lot of boxes to tick and to get it right. And the weird thing is, even though WHD load is a massive improvement compared to WinUAE, but because every game is formatted differently from different eras, like a game made in 1988 is different to 1994 of how they run, so they're better to run on different Amiga systems. So games in 88 might necessarily run better on the A500, where 1994 ones will run better on the A1200. Things like that. So and you always mucker that about. So if that was already set, in the console itself to be emulated the best way possible, with just by turning on a button. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I think what they're doing as well is they're looking at doing like a multiplayer for 2 people with Evercades that can play together in a game, but it's not needing an online connection.
Yeah.
It's so when you want to play a game online now, and not many retro games are online. Switch is starting to do it. But say for instance, you want to play, let's just say, I don't know, Street Fighter, for instance. You know, they want to play Street Fighter. If they do a Street Fighter cartridge, and they probably won't do a Street Fighter because Nintendo's all over that, and I doubt that this console will ever get some of their mainstream games. But Clay Fighter, for instance, Clay Fighter 2 is coming out. You want to verse your friend in Clay Fighter 2? That's cool. Don't need internet. And that is one thing that's great, because I think they're doing it by Bluetooth. You can just, as long as you both got the cartridge and your Evercade can pick up on someone else's that's sitting next to you, bam, off you go. You don't even need the frickin' internet to connect it. So thank God someone is bringing out a retro cartridge console that doesn't need the fucking internet. Yeah. So is that a new way of going with retro games? And you know what? If you were to stick them on cartridge and make them playable in 2-player where you're not sitting on the couch with your buddy, would be cool. But like, I'm all for playing the retro games over the internet, and the Switch will master that. But there is nothing like sitting there with your buddy on a couch with the banter. There's nothing like it. And if they do the Bluetooth connection, hells yeah. Hells yeah, it will be good. But the Evercade, I think, is very clever, because they're independent dudes, creating this thing. They're not a worldwide company like Nintendo and Sony or anything like that. So it's just people with the love of retro gaming that want to create a masterpiece. Going straight to the sources, not a bad idea. But it'll be good, man. It'll be good to see how this comes about, and whether or not they'll do what the Switch did and plug the holes the Switch has. So, yeah, good fun.
Cool, man. That sounds pretty promising, actually.
Yeah, it does. It does. So, fingers crossed for that.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, I'll throw it back to you, man.
All right, buddy. Too easy. So, of course, as I mentioned before, bit of sad news coming out of Gearbox. Borderlands Studio executive leads for Dream Job. John Vignocchi. I don't know if that's even how you pronounce his name. Sounds very erotic if you ask me.
I just thought of gnocchi like potatoes.
Yeah, I know. Let's go get some sauce and Vignocchi. Yeah. Eat some Vignocchi. Oh, what's this, mate? Oh, it's Vignocchi. Oh, it sounds delicious. So, after less than a year at the studio, quite amazingly. So, ahead of the release of Borderlands 3 in September, Gearbox publishing boss John Vignocchi, is heading out. This game industry veteran announced on Twitter that he's left Gearbox for his dream job somewhere else. Leaving the company was one of my hardest decisions I ever had to make, and I wouldn't have done it if it wasn't for the love and support of everyone there. Vignocchi, said on Twitter. They understood that encouraged me to take this role as a truly once-in-a-lifetime gig. Vignocchi, said he had to take great time working at... he had a great time working at Gearbox, where he served as executive producer for Gearbox Publishing for about a year. He specifically praised Gearbox founder Randy Pitchford and head of publishing Steve Gibson, saying they both know how to bring the passion and excellence of all the amazing developers that work there. So Vignocchi didn't say where he was going after Gearbox, but he noted that he is going on a bit of a road trip. Must be going to his Mamma Mia's place with his nonna to have some Vignocchi, which suggests the new job is not close to Gearbox, which is in Frisco, Texas. So yeah, it's obviously off to Italy to get some Vignocchi, So anyway, so yes, best of luck to John Vignocchi, So in his future, but definitely a bit of sad news coming out of Gearbox, because it's only a couple months away from Borderlands 3. It already has a massive hype. Who knows what is in store for Borderlands 3? The game's probably already finished. So the fact that he's gone doesn't really make a difference. But however, I don't really know too much about outcomes when things like this happen, how much the game will change. I think maybe, the game itself might be okay, but it might be the DLCs. It just might be. It wouldn't surprise me that over the next few days there'd be a leak of what John Vignocchi Yum Yum has installed for the roadmap after release with like DLCs and that. But those DLCs might get scrapped because Vignocchi Yum Yum might have just decide to turn it into a pile of spaghetti. So,
Mr. Yum Yum.
Yes, yeah, Yum Yums indeed. So, John Yum Yum Vignocchi, all the best to you, mate. Best of luck. You will never probably ever hear this podcast, but yeah, mate. All the best to Borderlands 3 and all their fans and followers of Gearbox, all the diehard fans. I know one of my mates is. So he will probably be a bit sad to hear that, and he'll probably be hungry. He probably wants some bolognese now after listening to this. So mate.
If Mr. Yum Yum ever hears this, please leave a comment down below. What is your favourite Italian dish? I'd like to know.
I know. Not only will I probably, faint from shock and pass out if he actually did. But it would be funny if he goes, I fucking hate Italian, mate.
He's like, I actually like Mexican food.
Yeah.
Well, we're still doing justice by calling him Yum Yum, so he's got to like something, isn't he?
Yeah. So, but the first thing I'll say is it's not pronounced Vignocchi, it's pronounced Vignocchi. I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce the name. It's spelled Vignocchi.
Oh, that's Gnocchi. That's definitely Gnocchi.
That's what I've said. So, John Yum Yum Vignocchi Bolognese, best of luck to you, mate. But apart from that, man, unless you got any other input on that subject, mate, I am done with subject number 2.
Cool. Hopefully he enjoys his road trip and he does what, what his dream job is, and he goes and does it, because... Probably
making gnocchi.
Probably he's going to become the gnocchi master, but he's going to become the gnocchi master.
He's probably decided to start his own gnocchi business. He's going to call it John Vignocchi Gnocchi Yum Yum or something, and you'll sell it all around the world in supermarkets in little containers.
John's Yum Yums.
Yeah, exactly. Just added the sauce, and it's a beautiful gnocchi. Vignocchi Yum Yum.
That's probably it.
That's probably it.
You hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah, cool, man. All right, what do you got for us, buddy?
All right, so before I get to do the I don't want to go again on the Sega route and say here's 10 more games that are coming up, because I've just done a game once, so I'll split it up. Here is every Nintendo console ranked from worst to best, and like I said, this is straight from Nintendo. Every person and staff got together and voted out of 13 systems. Hard to imagine they've only done 13. Anyway, and this is the list. Now, you haven't really played much Nintendo at all, but you know of some consoles, and you probably played them over the period of your life. So, kicking off the very bottom of the list was the Virtual Boy. No surprise there. Mm-hmm. The first attempt to bring VR and 3D gaming to homes. Mm-hmm. It was bad. Mm-hmm. You know that? Have you played the Virtual Boy?
Mm-mm. I heard enough about it.
It's a shocker.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't. I mean, it was very hard to find a second-hand one without vomit stains on it. So, yeah, no. Stupid joke.
Now, second last was weird. It's the Game Boy Color.
That is weird. That was revolutionary. Yeah.
The only true notable exclusive games for the Game Boy Color, though, was Pokemon Crystal, Legend of Zelda, Oracle of Ages, and Seasons.
You're right.
They're the only 3 exclusive games to the Game Boy Color. The rest could be played on any Game Boy, etc. So weird. And even weirder, in the 11th place, was the NES. I thought that would... Yeah! I thought that would have been really friggin' iconic.
But again, that was revolutionary. I mean, that was the birth of Super Mario.
And Metroid, Legend of Zelda, Final Fantasy, Castlevania.
Yeah, exactly, mate.
Contra, Kirby,
Donkey Kong or Mario, whatever. When Donkey Kong's at the top and he's rolling down the barrels, and that's actually Mario jumping over the barrels trying to save the princess.
Yeah.
What's that game called?
That's Donkey Kong.
That is Donkey Kong, isn't it? Yeah. So I know that was before Super Mario, and a lot of people don't realise that it's actually Mario who you're actually controlling, and then Super Mario Brothers came out. I mean, how could NES be number 11 when it's the most iconic console of all time? It's the birth of the gaming characters we know of today.
Yeah.
Next you're going to tell me the Sega is the most shittest console.
No. But the funny thing with Mario as well is the reason they gave him a hat is because they didn't know how to draw his hair in so many less pixels. And same with it, they gave him a mustache so he didn't have a mouth because they didn't know how to animate the mouth in pixels when he moved. So I don't know if you know that, but that's why they did that.
No, I don't. But it wouldn't surprise me if he had like the top of his head was bald and he had like all that hair around the side. You know, the typical Italian guy, the bald on the top and the hairs around the side. So.
Making his gnocchi.
Yeah, exactly, making his gnocchi.
In the barrels that was being thrown at him was just barrels of gnocchi.
Barrels of gnocchi, and he made it for Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong's get fucked. This tastes like shit.
Have my spaghetti bolognese.
Yeah, and it's not really the princess plot twist. It's his nonna. You know, so. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Oh God, that's gone.
Nonna, I'm coming up for you, nonna. And Donkey's like, go fuck off, you gnocchi cunt. I mean, whoops.
That needs an edit.
I'll beep that. I'll bleep that.
Alright, number 10 on the list was the original Game Boy.
Oh, yeah. That's okay.
And just above that, number 9 was the Game Boy Advance. I never played the GBA.
Yeah.
I've never played it. I've never owned one. So I can't really say, anything good for that, anything bad for that, as I've never...
Yeah, see, I played the Game Boy Advance, but I've never heard anyone call it the GBA, and it sounds so exotic.
Oh, going to play the GBA.
Yes, but don't wait up for me, darling. I'm going to play on my GBA.
But I mean, it was a success, and they provided 2 hardware updates for that thing, so it must have done something right. Number 8 was the Nintendo Wii.
Okay, that should have been like 14 or 15 for me. That's my personal opinion.
I can see why people don't like it, and when you look at some of the, it never had a mainstream Mario game. I don't think the Wii. Oh no, it had Mario Galaxy, but Mario Galaxy just didn't feel like a normal Mario game to me, like an Odyssey or a Mario 64 kind of game. It felt a bit weird to me. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But in saying that, one thing that the Wii did do was it mastered the motion controls. It took that into a new ball game, and Nintendo boldly tried doing something with that and doing something very different to what everyone else was doing. One would argue it paid off. In a sense. Number 7 was the Nintendo DS. People still have a DS, so there's no surprise that the DS is on that list. And, kind of in the middle of the table there. No surprise. I've never owned the DS. The only handheld consoles I had for Nintendo was the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color. So I didn't go above that. Number 6 was the Wii U, which surprised me. Because I thought the Wii was better than the Wii U. But, Mario Kart 8, Splatoon, stuff like that. Super Mario Maker as well was a big one for that. So, I can see, but I didn't own the Wii U. I played it. I didn't want one because I thought, it's just kind of the same thing. 5, the Nintendo 3DS. They were very, very popular. Number 4 was the Nintendo 64.
Okay. Yeah.
Which for its time was great, and this surprised me. Number 3 was the Nintendo GameCube.
Yes. I mean, it's no. There's no way the Nintendo GameCube was better than 64.
Yeah. See, I'm with you there. I totally agree with you. It just isn't as good. To me, I don't know. The 64 is just... It's, there's not many people that go, 64, let's go out and play... let's get the 64. I mean, it's popular. No one goes, let's go and play the GameCube. I mean, no one really talks about the GameCube anymore. I mean, name a game from the GameCube that really stands out.
Yeah, no, I can't.
I can name a couple, and
right.
And Super Smash Bros. Melee, which was arguably the best Smash Bros. Game ever. Luigi's Mansion.
Yeah.
And Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, which even that was very toony, wasn't the greatest. But other than that, it was okay. But number 2, the Super Nintendo.
SNES. That's fair call.
Fair call. And it was my favourite console ever, is the SNES, so I would always favour it. I mean, that was the birth of, F-Zero, Star Fox, Bomberman, Earthbound. That's where Mario really took off, was the Super Nintendo, to me. And in the top spot is the Nintendo Switch. And when I think about it, it's outsold every other console that there is.
Yeah, that's true.
And it broke records left, right, and centre, really. Epic exclusives like Breath of the Wild for Legend of Zelda, damn good game. Mario Odyssey was insane. Splatoon 2, you name them, And they've got other stuff coming like Doom, Skyrim, Wolfenstein, Diablo, Crash Bandicoot. Stardew Valley is a very popular game as well. I've never played it, but you hear people raving about it. And there are some more epic games to come, which is going to be in some of my honourable mentions a bit later. But the Nintendo Switch is the best Nintendo selling console ever. So, yeah, I don't know how I feel about that list. I mean, I would not put the GameCube at number 3. I couldn't do it.
All right, give it to me, mate. Do it. Your top 5.
Top 5.
Starting from 5, your top 5.
Oh, okay. I would say 5 for me. Oh, that's a difficult one. I'm gonna say the Game Boy, because I played a lot of the game. That was my first handheld when I was younger, and I've still got my original Game Boy in my over the shoulder bag that the Game Boy sat in, and all the little pockets that the cartridges went into and stuff. So I'd say 5 is the Game Boy for me. Yeah, comfortably. 4. Boy, oh boy. This is really hard, because I'm a Nintendo fan through and through. Number 4, I'm going to say the NES. It's classic, it's timeless. But I suppose I spent a bit more time recently playing other consoles. Although I do always go back to it. But I didn't get my NES until, I was in my early to mid-20s. So I was very late to the NES party. I mean, I had one and then it broke when 2 months after getting it. Number 3, I'd say the Nintendo Switch. It's just damn good. It's just really good. And it's a fight between first and second for the 64 and the SNES. I would normally say SNES is my number 1 because it's my favourite console of all time. But later in life, I played a lot more 64, and I really do appreciate some of the games on the 64 as well. But I'm going to say 64 at 2, SNES at 1.
Yeah, sure, mate. Sure.
That's hard. That is hard.
Yeah, mate. Well, definitely. I mean, in my top 5, you'll find will be very, very similar in its own way. But I'll give you my top 5, and I'll explain why. The top 5 is like this for me. So basically, I mean, number 5. Even though I haven't owned a Nintendo Switch and I haven't really played a Nintendo Switch, and I can understand that it's got such a high rating. I mean, in my opinion, it hasn't been out long enough. But definitely, the Nintendo Switch, of course, number 5. I mean, you can't argue with facts. At the same time, the Nintendo Switch, it hasn't been around. I mean, it's definitely the reason why I'm giving my list is simply because of revolutionary. That's basically what it's coming down to. So, Nintendo Switch is proving to be revolutionary. It's probably one of the first of its kind, if not the first of its kind, of what you can actually do. The game was designed around. They're really good in staying true to that. So basically, games that are designed basically for Nintendo Switch. There's a handful of games that aren't really designed for Nintendo Switch, but it doesn't really matter in their own little way. Like Rocket League's not one of them. That's for sure. Skyrim, yeah, I mean, Skyrim's a beautiful game and it wouldn't look that good on the Switch, but then again, I have to see it for myself. But things like that. I mean, it is a great console. I mean, it's backing up itself with a lot of facts. It's going to revolutionise a lot of gaming, but it's still yet to do it, in my opinion. So, and of course, that means in my view, the next 4 basically comes from just that revolutionary sort of background. So, number 4 is definitely the Game Boy, again, because that was revolutionary. There was nothing anywhere near like it, really. Nothing even came close to comparing to it. So,
yeah, it was its first handheld, I think.
Pretty much, mate. So you could even put a cord between you and your mate who also had one. You could play, 2-player Tetris and all that sort of stuff, So that just blew people's minds in the late 80s, all that sort of stuff. So, that in itself was, incredibly amazing. Number 3, of course, is Nintendo. Again, revolutionary. It was one of the first consoles of its kind. It came out before any other 8-bit console, I believe. Came out just before the Sega. And even the Sega didn't really even compete with it. It gave birth to a lot of iconic characters that we know and love of today. In my opinion, the Switch wouldn't be where it is without the Nintendo.
Well, the NES took a big risk because they wanted to. I mean, the NES was the very first home video console in a sense, because the video game market was going downhill, and Nintendo went, we want to create a video game console you can play at home, and they thought it would flop. They didn't. Nintendo were the only people to believe there was a market for it, and they wholeheartedly, with Mario, saved the crash of video games.
Yeah, man. I mean, they knew they were going in competing against the Atari, and they were competing against the Commodore 64. But I mean, literally, it was the David versus the Goliaths against a hostile environment, and they came out on top. And it's literally snowballed into one of the best consoles, arguably probably the greatest console of all time. I mean, when it comes to consoles, I'm a massive PlayStation fan. But I'm happy to admit, with a lot of facts and figures, that Nintendo is probably the greatest console ever in existence. Just the branding of Nintendo itself. So, that as well. So, Nintendo, and of course, again, it's a toss-up between Nintendo 64 and Super NES, between 1 and 2. So, in my personal opinion, believe it or not, the Super Nintendo is actually number 2 for me.
It's a tidy, isn't it? It's tight.
It is, man. I mean, the reasons why Super Nintendo is number 2 instead of Nintendo 64, again, it's the revolutionary thing. So when Super Nintendo came out, there was a couple of bits of competition. It had a Sega Master System, all that sort of stuff. Even though they didn't really come close, the games that you could get on Super Nintendo were amazing. They looked 100 times better. So in that market, when it came to home consoles, Super Nintendo was leading the way in that generation, and it managed to hold its own. It could have flopped, but it managed to hold its own against a lot of competition. It even held on for a bit longer when when the bloody PlayStation, the first PlayStation released, and Nintendo 64 came out a year later. It still managed to hold its own in its own little way. And again, the Super NES was the first of its kind where we saw games like again that we know of today, like Donkey Kong Country, Killer Instinct, these revolutionary games, that I know Donkey Kong, the figure of Donkey Kong was around for a little bit longer than that, but there was a lot of iconic games on Super Nintendo, that again has influenced a lot of games, to this day, and all that sort of stuff. And it's just, as you said, the Super NES is just a great all-round console, and there's a lot of great games on there. But of course, in my personal opinion, Nintendo 64 being number 1, again, just revolutionary. It was the first 64-bit console that was cartridge. The Sony had better graphics because it was on CD format. But for a cartridge, the controller was unique itself. The controller was completely unique. It was like nothing else. The games that you can get on Nintendo 64 are seamless and timeless, and have always printed in people's memories of being great games. GoldenEye, Banjo-Kazooie,
Mario 64, Lilac Wars.
64, Lilac Wars, which is also, of course, Star Fox, all that sort of stuff. It's just, there is just so much awesomeness with the 64 that just happened, and again, it had to compete with the Sega Saturn and the Sony PlayStation, which was tough, and it held its own for quite a while. but Sony started taking off probably after about 3 or 4 years of its release. Sega Saturn disappeared because it just couldn't hold itself, and then Sega Saturn going down the drain, and Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64 was right behind the Sony PlayStation. It's just still, you know what I mean. So
that's it. I mean, the PS1 wasn't enough to take me over the line. I was 64, but when the PS2 came out, I still had the 64 for a long time, but the PS2 still got my interest. And the PS2 was my switch to PlayStation. Not that I abandoned Nintendo, because I got the Wii and that came out and stuff, but I never abandoned Nintendo. But the PS2 was when I really switched and went, okay, PlayStation's a big deal. But Sega, I never really touched Sega as a kid. I played them a lot in later life. I had a friend that had a Sega Mega Drive, and I played that a couple of times, but then 64 came out and it was just 64 City. Everyone was 64. Go around to your friends, play 64, play GoldenEye, play Smash Brothers, play Mario Party. It was those games. So, but anyway, it's weird because last week I was talking about a modern game, and this week you're talking about Nintendo. It's crazy how we've kind of switched things up a bit.
Yeah, man, it's pretty funny. And on that note, I had friends that didn't have any gaming consoles. I had friends that had Segas. I had friends that had Nintendos. And I had a really good friend growing up with who owned a couple of Segas. And the thing is, I had the same games on my Super Nintendo as what he had on his Sega Master System. And I remember playing the same games that I had on his Sega. And I just remember them not feeling right. They're not feeling the same. They didn't seem as vibrant. They didn't seem as bright. The refresh rates seemed just so different, and everything just seemed a little bit off. It's like they just fell short of the mark on a Sega compared to a Nintendo. And I remember my mate used to come over to my place, loved playing with Nintendo, and used to say, when he come over, he goes, "Bring your Nintendo around," and I'll be like, "Oh, why is that? We got your Sega." He goes, "Nah." He goes, "I like Nintendo. I like Nintendo games better." So he goes, "I just like the Nintendo." I said, "Yeah, man, Nintendo's pretty awesome." So so it just came to that, So
yeah.
and he I remember when Nintendo 64 came out, he's like, "I'm going to get a Nintendo 64. I don't want to get another Sega. I want a Nintendo 64." So because he used to play my 64 as well, and he got one, so it was pretty cool. And yeah,
I mean, we can't argue. The thing that Nintendo do right is the fact that a lot of their top games aren't multi-platform. They keep them to themselves, which is something PlayStation and Xbox should have done from the get-go.
Yeah, and that's the other thing as well. Still to this day, well, not still to this day, it's a bit of a weird call. I mean, 4-player split screen on Nintendo 64, that was, again, revolutionary. I mean, as you said, the 4-player GoldenEye, which is one of your favourite things to do, 4-player GoldenEye, I mean, was the only console of its time, and still to this day, one of the only consoles that can sort of do it, on that format that it was created on. So I mean, can Nintendo Switch do that today? 4-player split?
Oh yeah. There you
go. So
Mario Kart still got it. I think Splatoon still does it.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. Back in those days when Nintendo 64 was at its peak, I mean, even the Sony PlayStation couldn't do that. It was only 2-player split screen. So again, revolutionary stuff. So again, it's just why the 64 was just made my top number one. Super Nintendo number 2, mate.
Crazy. But Nintendo will keep ruling on. When you think of video games, the two things that come to mind is definitely Pac-Man and Mario are the two symbols of video games that hit me. I mean, you couldn't say, you think of video games and you think of a PlayStation or Xbox mascot. You just don't do it.
No.
But
no, that's it, mate.
All right, I throw it back your way.
All right, cool, man. So, as I was mentioning before, a bit more sad news. So this is 3 drama, saddy bits of news in a row. It's sort of sad, but it's also a win for us gaming consumers. So, Sony Europe taken to court over alleged consumer rights violations. So the ACCC is an organisation here in Australia, alleges PlayStation Store refund policy does not reflect the consumer rights protection laws under Australia. Sony Europe has been dragged before the Australian Federal Court over its refund policy for digital goods on the PlayStation Store. The Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, ACCC, alleges that from September 2017, Sony Europe refused to offer refunds for any games that has been downloaded or if more than 14 days has passed since purchase. According to the ACCC allegations, Sony Europe also claimed it does not have to provide refunds unless the developer told the consumer the game was irreparable, faulty or otherwise authorised a refund. Additional, Sony Europe would only offer PlayStation Store credit and refund rather than actual money, so that's pretty sleazy and doggy in my opinion. ACCC argues that these policies do not reflect the consumer rights guaranteed under Australian law. Quote, we allege the Sony Europe gave false and misleading information to their customer rights the customers about their rights in relation to the games sold via its PlayStation Store, said the ACCC Rod Sims in a statement. He alleges that consumer guarantees do not expire after digital product has been downloaded. As we allege, Sony Europe told consumers that refunds will be given in the form of original payment unless the consumer chooses to receive it in-store credit. So basically, Sony has gone, we don't have to give you a refund because we're making up a rule saying you've had it for more than 14 days, and when we do refund you, if you crack the shits enough, you can just have in-store credit and you're not going to have your money back. So ACCC has gone, bullshit, that's not going to fucking happen in our country, mate. You're going to get your ass kicked. So good old ACCC in Australia. It's good that they're on the case. I mean, it's a bit of a downfall. They haven't obviously met fucking Blizzard yet, because Blizzard don't refund people at all, and their only reason is because you've had it for more than 72 hours. Which is pretty bullshit in my opinion as well, which is damn disgusting. But I'm just never going to buy anything of Blizzard Activision again. So, and I hope someone's listening to that, because I brought my Call of Duty Black Ops 4 and it was faulty, and there was a lot of people that had the same problem. It just wouldn't run, it just wouldn't play. Tried to get a refund, and they never replied to my emails. They never replied to any of my messages. When I applied for the refund through how they want you to do it through their website by clicking on buttons and filling in forms, all I got was an automated bot reply of, sorry, you've had the game for more than 72 hours, you cannot get a refund. Like as if I was just someone that's just played the game, gone, no, I don't like it, I want a refund. You know what I mean? Or I've played it for 3 days straight and gone, all right, I'm done, I've completed the game, I've done this, I'm going to get my money back now, and I've put it on my channel, or I've done my review, I'm just going to get my money back. That was the opposite. I've actually got a faulty game, and I tried for 2 weeks to get a reply from someone. I sent about 10 emails, tried to get a reply, I got nothing, and I thought this is disgusting, and I'm never getting anything from Blizzard ever again. So, and it's still to this day, I won't get anything ever more from them. So I won't buy it from their store. Nothing like that. I just have to, if a game's on Blizzard that I really want to get, then I'm just going to have to wait or something like that. So, Con
artist, man.
Yeah, man, never again. So, so it's good the ACCC have come. I mean, it sucks that Sony have sort of gone down that path. I mean, it's Sony Europe, so not Sony Japan. So I don't know what's going to happen there if they actually get their asses absolutely scrapped. So I don't think they'll get sued for millions or billions or whatever. I don't know what's actually going to happen, but I really hope that it's a bit of a wake up call for Sony and all that sort of stuff. So they just if they want a policy where they don't want to refund people, just when they go to buy the game, put it in the big letters saying, if you buy this game, you cannot get refunds after 14 days. Do you agree? Just say something like that. So. Things like that. Just make it easier for people to, not complain, but if you have a faulty game and it's digital copy, they need to make that easier. Do you have a problem? Yes, I do. What is your problem? My game will not run, will not work. Tick this box. Okay. Are you able to supply evidence that it does not work? Yes or no. What is your statement? What is your evidence to say that it doesn't? I press play and it doesn't play, it just crashes, blah blah blah. Are you able to record the screen and show us? Yes, I can. Put it in a box and send it to them. So it's just that I know it's usually less than 0.008% of people, but that, depending on how many copies you sell, I mean, if 0.8% of a million is 80,000 that's 80,000 people too many, in my opinion, that have a game that they've just spent $100 on that won't work. And I'm telling you now, 80,000 people the next day, 100,000 people will know, and then 150,000 people will know, and then 200,000 people will know in a week. Then 400,000 people will know, and then 700,000 people will know 2 weeks later. Next thing you know, you're selling shitty, dodgy games. That people won't buy. And I know a few people might come and say, "Well, my game's fine," but people know that the game's. I know, like I said, you get the odd game that doesn't work, but if you are selling a bodgy game, which has a high risk of a turnaround where people can't get a refund, these people are going to know, they're going to find out, and they're going to know that you don't give refunds. Especially because the stories, that's the thing about social media, is that all you have to do is go on forums and you find stories that are consistent. These 2 people that have never met, or these 10 people that have never met in their life, one's in Japan, one's in Germany, one's in Australia, one's in New Zealand, one's in England, and they all say, "I bought this game 3 days ago, I press play, it doesn't work, it just crashes." The next guy says the same thing, the next guy says the same thing, the next guy says the same thing. If you see a consistency, if you see a pattern, then there's a problem with the game. And if all these people don't get a refund and they all get told the same thing, then you're going to have a bad time. So, ACCC have stepped forward, taken PlayStation Europe to court, which is a good thing, because at least we know that our consumer rights are going to start getting protected, which is a great thing. So, but apart from that, mate, that is my third topic for the night. Buddy, what else have you got, man?
Cool. Heading our way to the Sega Mega Drive Mini. We got 10 more games released for that. Right. Now, we've gone through 20 already. Do you want me to sum up what has come forward yet? Or do you want me to just go... Alright,
quick go through the list again, yeah.
Alright, so the first announcement, we had Thunder Force 3, Super Fantasy Zone. Wait, I beg my pardon. Sorry. I'll start that again. I'm reading the wrong list. Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Shining Force, Vampire Killer, Comic Zone, Rent a Hero, Space Harrier, that's some of them there. Echo the Dolphin, Castlevania Bloodlines. I'm just reading a few of these, just out of just run them off the top of my head. Earthworm Jim, Streets of Rage 2, Contra Hard Corps, Castle of Illusion and World of Illusion starring Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. So that's some of the ones announced so far. Here is the 10 new ones. Here we go.
Alright.
Mega Man, The Wily Wars. So Mega Man is on the list. That is good. Good on Mega Man. I don't know if you played the Mega Man games.
No.
I wasn't expecting Wily Wars, but Mega Man nonetheless is great. Street Fighter 2, The Champions Edition.
Oh, I think I just in my pants.
Yeah. Ghouls and Ghosts.
Yes.
So, oh no, in a sense. One seriously hard game. Alex the Kid in the Enchanted Castle. So, Alex Kidd's there. Golden Axe.
Yeah. Golden Axe. Classic.
I know. Beyond Oasis. Don't know. Phantasy Star 4, The End of the Millennium. Don't know Phantasy Star. Sonic the Hedgehog Spinball. It's probably not the Sonic the Hedgehog people were wanting, but we still do have 10 more games to be released, and we do have Sonic 2 already there. So I'm announcing they're going to hold back for the last 10. Vector Man, don't know, and then Wonder Boy in Monster World. So a few good games in there. We're only 10 more to go. That is a serious lineup of games that they've pulled together. And I'm still on the interested bandwagon, so let's see what they come up with next. And they did say the next announcement is going to be at the very start of June, so we might have an update next week of the final 40 games. So keeping an eye on that. So yeah, should be fun. That's Street Fighter 2. That's a biggie. That could be a game changer for him. So yeah, well, that's my third and final topic, other than a couple of honourable mentions, and today in gaming.
Yeah, very nice, man. All right, cool. I'll get on to my final topic, then I've got my honourable mentions, and do you feel old yet? Of course, naturally. So all right, cool, man. So my final topic for the night is more EA news, which is really, really cool. So
you say EA?
Sorry, E3. That's what I'm going to say.
Cool. I was going to say EA. Are they doing another FIFA? I'm excited.
No.
Well, they are,
no,
but
no. E3. Yeah, E3. E3 update. Yes, here we go. All right, I'm coming there. I was looking at something. I was distracted. I was looking at something.
I didn't know what to say, so I thought I'd just meow.
Classic wolf. All right. So, E3. More updates on E3. A couple of really exciting announcements just came out over the last, literally just hours ago. Breaking news. Yeah, that was pretty anticlimactic, Michael. Well done. EA is going to hold a live stream at E3 rather than hosting a show, because what they plan to do is they plan to live stream gameplay, apparently, of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which is extremely exciting. So basically with that, that's pretty exciting. Pretty exciting stuff. So basically with that, as I've bring up on my screen now, that they're going to play a live stream schedule leads with Jedi Fallen Order. That's really cool. They actually have a full schedule up on the PC Gamer page of what games are going to be played, like live stream wise. So what they're doing, but rather than hosting a big E3 conference, EA is running a string of live streams on Saturday, June 8th, as its EA Play event. Topics will include Apex Legends, Battlefield 5, EA Sport franchises, The Sims 4, and of course Respawn's upcoming Star Wars game, Jedi Fallen Order. So, most of the games people don't really care because they already are out and about or to be expected. But basically, 9:30 a.m. Jedi Fallen Order. There will be a live stream of it. Don't know what it's going to be like. Don't know what what the gameplay is going to be like. But that's pretty exciting to see that. So. I'm sure there'll be official release date and all that sort of stuff.
You're going to be watching that?
Oh yeah, man! I'm going to try and watch as much E3 as I can, and then bring up on the podcast a week later. So, what I'll call my perspective of gaming in E3 is what I'm going to call it. So, I'm just going to have my little bit of feedback on the E3.
Yeah.
I'll try and watch as much as I can. I won't bore people with every single little detail I can find on E3, but what stood out for me the most, really. So.
And I have a sneaky suspicion what might be at the top of that list.
What?
FIFA 20.
Oh!
We rag on FIFA so much.
Yeah, so 9:30 a.m. will be Jedi Fallen Order, 10 a.m. will be Apex Legends, 10:30 a.m. will be Battlefield 5, 11 a.m. EA Sports FIFA. 11:30 a.m. EA Sports, Madden NFL, and 12 p.m. The Sims 4. So FIFA will be there, but you're right, FIFA 20, big fucking whoop. So, it's another soccer game that looks exactly like the year before. Awesome. So
they may as well just create a FIFA and then just update the teams with the newest players instead of releasing a whole new game. Oh,
you mean like every couple of years?
Yeah, every couple of years do one, but just keep one game. And then just update the fucking players. You don't need a whole nother game every year.
Yeah, I don't know why they do it. They're just weird. Just weird. But yeah, man, that's pretty exciting stuff, man. So keeping an eye on that. So, and of course, another really exciting thing for all you Marvel fans out there. It looks like there's a rumor that an Avengers video game will be announced at E3 by Square Enix or Square Onyx, however you want to pronounce them. So they are planning to do a showcase on an Avengers game. So who knows what that's going to be like, what it's going to be about, what platforms it's going to be on. When they say the Avengers, who's going to be in it? Is it going to be starting off with, is it going to be starting with just a couple of heroes and they'll add other heroes as DLCs? Is Thanos going to be in it? Blah, 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 blah. So more details are coming soon regarding the new Avengers game from Square Enix, formerly known as the Avengers Project, Marvel Avengers, as it's now apparently known, will be revealed less than 2 weeks' time as part of the Square Enix E3 2019 press conference on June 10. So, yeah, man, it's going to be a worldwide reveal. So they've apparently remained pretty tight-lipped. So it's going to be a separate game previously announced with the Iron Man VR title for PS4. So who knows? I mean, I've never really followed much of the Avengers. I don't really know what goes on with all that sort of universe stuff. But that, honestly, with the amount of steam that all the superhero movies have gained in the last couple of years, something like a big game like this would sound pretty awesome. So I think that's going to be exciting for a lot of the Marvel fans out there. Come to grips with, wanting to mix the universes of DC and Marvel and the gaming community to have it as realistic as possible. So, they do really well with, Spider-Man and all that sort of stuff. Those games are great. But, to have games like Spider-Man, but you're playing as Wolverine or, I know that's not Marvel, but you know what I mean? Playing as, playing as Thor or playing as whoever, whatever. So that'd be pretty cool as well, man. So, but yeah, man, that's a cool little feature as well. That'd be my fourth topic, mate. Blast off of what you got left over.
All right, man. So just a few honourable mentions. I don't normally do honourable mentions, I guess. But in the Nintendo world, just a few things that's happening. So Dead by Daylight slashes its way onto the Nintendo Switch this September. So, Dead by Daylight heading on over, which is good. I don't know if you've got Dead by Daylight. It's damn good fun. It's good fun.
See, the funny thing was that I was deciding between Friday the 13th and Dead by Daylight. I end up going with Friday the 13th, and Dead by Daylight's 100 times more popular. So, I would mean to get it, but I reckon I'll get it at some stage, yes.
Yeah, no, for sure. Also, Super Mario Maker 2 is coming out in June. The only problem is, the little amiibo collectibles that you put on your shelf that you can scan into the Switch? Well, none of them can be used at all in Super Mario Maker 2, so that's upset a few little people. It's only little people that are affected by that news.
I think people are perfectly fine.
We're fine. We're okay. A new Detective Pikachu game has been announced for the Switch based off the popularity of the movie. Also, it looks like Ryan Reynolds may be stepping up to voice Pikachu again in a sequel to that movie as well. So a new game and a new film. Whether the two will be following the same kind of thing, I don't know. But at the same time, expect a movie and another game. Konami is almost ready to confirm the full lineup of games included in the Contra Anniversary Collection. Don't know if you played Contra at all.
I played it on Amiga.
Oh, nice. So, also, talking about Dead by Daylight and the horror game going to Nintendo Switch, we've also got Slender as well, is going onto Nintendo. Nothing like sitting alone in the dark on a handheld console, running away from Slenderman. And to finish off, just honourable mentions, Super Mario Maker 2 as well. Seems though you can't play against your friends online. That's right.
Yeah,
they're making it.
Right.
They're making it a couch co-op game.
Right.
I'm not against that. And that's what Nintendo are known for. I like that idea better anyway. But once again, could upset a lot of people. But that's kind of sums up. Not as important topics to talk about on the Switch, but a little bit of what's happening anyway. Or before I finish though, one more thing. It seems that Nintendo might be bringing Red Faction back to life.
Oh.
So maybe more on that next week, because that's only just got announced about an hour and a half ago. So there's not much to go on that, but maybe next week, Red Faction might be coming back, which Nintendo never had, do I say. It's a neglected game from PlayStation's area of expertise that they've not continued, so Nintendo might be having a stab at it.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty juicy stuff, mate.
Alright, so that's my honourable mention, so over to you for yours.
All right, cool. So my honourable mentions are based around a couple of release dates. Well, not release dates, a couple of like releases for games. One of them I'm very excited about. So Journey is going to be coming to PC on June 6th. So it's already released on PlayStation. I've played it on PlayStation. It came out in 2012, so 7 years ago on the PlayStation 3. I thought it was a great game. Pretty good little indie game. For those that haven't played Journey, you're just some little weird little thing in a giant robe, and you have this scarf, and your scarf slowly gets bigger as you progress through the world. But what you're doing is that you're just on foot going through this endless desert, and you're just trying to get to like top of this big mountain sort of thing, and you keep running into like I don't know, like ruins, and you're trying to get out of the ruin. Kind of like a puzzle. Open door, this, close that door, go on that platform, and as you pass it, you collect pieces of your scarf, and your scarf is longer and all that, and it's live multiplayer as well, so you could be going along on your journey, and there could be other people next to you on the same journey, and it's live, so that's really cool as well, so I was quite happy to hear that. It's going to be released on the Epic Store, so Epic Game Store for $14.95 apparently, which is pretty cool. So I mean, whether I would get something like that, I'm not sure, but I know that was a good game, and I wouldn't mind playing it again. That was a lot of fun. And of course, my next honourable mention is a Need for Speed. So the new Need for Speed is coming this year, but it won't be announced at E3, and that's pretty much what everyone knows. They are pretty sure that there'll be a new Need for Speed coming this year, 2019, but no one knows exactly when, no one knows exactly what it's going to be called. So in a blog post on the EA's official website, community manager Ben Walk confirmed that the new game that is a truly memorable high-speed entry into 25 years of Need for Speed will be coming later this year. This post was legit on specific details. This post was light on specific details on what the game would look like. But I guess people will hear it a little bit more later on this year, closer to the release date. Yeah, man, I mean, if you're a big Need for Speed fan, the new one will be coming out. I didn't mind the Need for Speeds. I've played a few of them. I didn't mind it, but I'm not overly into racing car games and all that sort of stuff. I prefer them with more of an arcadey feel, more than like a realistic feel. But I know it's just weird for me, but that's just me. So that's exciting stuff, man. So that's my honorable mentions. Finish us off with your This Day in Gaming, mate. What have you got?
Well, before I get into that, you were saying Need for Speed. Just want to add on to it. I actually got given a free Xbox 360 the other day, or last weekend. They said you can have it because I kind of collect some old stuff and do them up a bit, and getting that side hustle going, as you like to say. Only problem it was a UK one, but luckily I know a guy that can switch the plug over for me, and lo and behold, that sucker started right up.
Excellent.
Inside was a free Need for Speed game. They didn't take the game out of the console, so that will be the first ever time I'll ever play Need for Speed. I've never played it. So there you go. I now own a Need for Speed game, and on another one I opened up, and they had Modern Warfare 2 in it. So people don't know how to take games out of their bloody consoles before they give them away. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I've done that. I've done that as well. Oh well.
Yeah, I opened up one of the PS2s, and I opened it up, and there was San Andreas sitting in it.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Stoked. All right. Today in gaming, before I make you yawn even more. Today, in 1979, Capcom was established. If you don't know who Capcom are, they're the ones behind such games as Street Fighter, Resident Evil, Monster Hunter, Dead Rising, Devil May Cry, stuff like that. So they were founded. Mega Man and Final Fight as well, to name another two. Sorry, I left them out. There's some staples. 1979 they were founded. So that is like what, 40 years ago? Is that 40 years ago? 30 years ago.
It's pretty close. It's about 38 years ago.
1979. Yeah,
40 years. Let's just say 40 years. Fuck it.
Yeah, 40 years. So 40 years of Capcom. So that's a pretty big milestone. And they've released some damn cool games, and they're still going strong. So, happy 40th anniversary to Capcom.
Yes, definitely, mate, definitely. Well, that is great news, but now I'm going to do my Do You Feel Old Yet? So, are you ready to feel old?
I am growing wrinkles by the second just thinking about this, so...
Well, either feel old or not even born yet. One of those. Do you feel old yet, or were you even born yet?
Alright, hit me.
So, Snake, the iconic Snake game that we all know and love of today. You you go around and click dots on your screen.
Yeah, on the old Nokia 3310s, 3315s. Yeah.
Yes, and your snake gets bigger and so on and so forth. There's been so many alternate versions of the game, it's not funny. It's been rehashed so many times, but the original Snake on arcade was released today in 1985. So 33 years ago today. Happy birthday, Snake.
Oh god, and I remember my very first mobile phone in high school had Snake on, so that must have been going around for a fucking long time.
Yes. Nuts, mate. Nuts. There's been so many different versions of that game that have come out. Even still to this day, they're still replicating it, which is pretty amazing. So, yeah, man, that was pretty interesting. But apart from that, mate, have you got anything else that you'd like to input before we wrap this thing up?
Not any news. I'm just wondering, what's your game to play this weekend? What's on your targets as the game you'll be playing?
Well, that's a good question because I've got choices between Rocket League,
which is your staple.
Rocket League, yeah. There's another game that I've kind of like playing called Rocket League. I just got this new game called Rocket League.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you heard about that before, mate, just the usual, Rocket League, trying to finish off Sekiro. Which I've been staring at for the last week. I really need to finish that off. Play that, and then I've got to move on to, once I play Sekiro, I've got to move on to Witcher 3. So, but it's tough, man, because Rocket League does take a lot of my time, and it's the first game I play. It's the first game I play when I get home. It's the last game I play before I go to bed, and I play other games to have a break from Rocket League. So. Just one of those things, man. I want to get Rage 2, but I probably won't do that for a couple of weeks. I'm having a few days off from work next week, and I might get Rage 2 or something like that. Then I'll get a couple of games next week maybe, but I've got Assassin's Creed that I want to look at and finish, and Witcher 3 I want to look at and at least do the main story and all that sort of stuff. So, but yeah, man. Apart from that, Rocket League.
Sweet.
What about yourself?
I'm actually going to go back. I'm going to, streaming tomorrow morning, I'm going to be streaming Super Mario World. I'm going to try and complete that game from start to finish tomorrow. So, that's my one, Super Nintendo Mario World for me.
Nice, man. Nice.
Haven't played it in forever, so it should be interesting.
Yeah. Play it forever.
Alright, let's wrap this up, hey? Let's wrap this up.
Let's do it. Alright, guys. So, as always, thank you very much for joining us. You are now all up to date on the latest PC, console, retro, and Nintendo news. Guys, as always, again, Jason, thanks very much for joining us. Do not be afraid to check out his channel and his version of the podcast as well. I will leave a link in the description as always. And, of course, Jason,
I'll be doing the same thing. Check out NasG Gameplays in the description below if you're on my channel. And
yes,
he's, like we say every week, he's the most attractive man in Perth. You might want to go and pay him a visit and check out his content.
Yes, make sure you got your best sun visor on, because I am just absolutely stunningly, brilliantly bright. I don't know where I'm going with that joke, but anyway. But guys, as always, you're all up to date. Thank you very much for listening to the latest JayNAS Podcast, and we'll see you all in the next episode. Bye.
See ya.